Welcome to Infrastructure Design Suite. What's in there? With Lawrence Vaughn and Brian Haley. Let's join them now.
As I said, Infrastructure Design Suite products. What's in there? As most of you know, the AutoCAD, standard lines, arcs, and circles 3D concept tool, that's in the base of all of these suites that we're going to be talking about today, which there will be 3 different versions we are going to be going through. The next is AutoCAD Map, as most of you know, rides on top of AutoCAD. So you'll have your map tools. Map tools will be good using GIS data, points. What would be some other good examples of who would use Map?
Well, anybody that needs to have access to GIS data would want to have access to Map. Map is a great tool. It does more than just topological analysis. It really helps you take AutoCAD to the next level. It brings in shape files and SDF files and can do different types of analyses. It gives you access to all that wonderful, free, for the most part, GIS data that's available out there. So yeah, AutoCAD Map is fantastic.
We'll also include the storm and sanitary analysis tool, obviously hydraulics tool, and highway drainage systems. Now I understand that this had come out a while ago, and this was a big hit for some folks. What were some of the other tools folks may have been using that this had replaced?
Yeah, so this actually came from acquisition from Boss International. That was the company that created the product originally, and it kind of filled in the hydrology and hydraulic analysis tools within Civil 3D. Civil 3D also has all the HydroFlow things, the HydroFlow Express, HydroFlow Storm Sewers, and HydroFlow Hydrographs. But this one actually comes with just you don't need Civil 3D to get access to the storm and sanitary analysis. It comes in the suite just by itself. The other H&H tools have to be run through Civil 3D. Now the nice thing about storm and sanitary analysis, it does a whole system analysis. A comparable product that's available out there would be the Hasted Method Civil Storm. So that would be a product that would be similar in scope for this product here.
Thank you. AutoCAD Raster Design. Many folks that I've worked with in the past had needed to get paper drawings and scan them in and bring AutoCAD files. But what are some of the other ways, Brian, that Raster may be helpful for someone that has no need to scan any drawings in?
I've seen people use Raster Design when they bring an aerial image into a drawing, and they want to be able to reuse the image. And so what you can do is you can use Raster Design to create a world file. So the next time you reference that image in, it comes in at the right location in your drawing, for example. It also has some OCR capabilities, so optical character recognition. So if you scan a sheet, it can take the text on that sheet and make it into actual AutoCAD text. Digitizing line work, as you said. Plus, it also gives you the ability to actually edit the images directly in AutoCAD.
Next, we have Recap. Now, many of you may have never heard of Recap. I believe we have used Recap earlier with a drone around our building to help us create a model. Brian, are you familiar with some other projects you may have seen folks maybe on the infrastructure side, how they would have integrate a drone or use of the Recap software itself?
Yeah, so Recap actually has 2 different pieces to it. It has just the point cloud aspect, so it can take multiple point clouds and register them together, and you can process massive amounts of point cloud data within Recap. So if you ever have to get scanning done, you can do that. What we did with our building is we used Recap Photo, and that allowed us to, as Lawrence said, take a drone and fly it around our building and take pictures of the building. And then Recap actually created the point cloud for us from the imagery.
Okay. So some of the other versions of the Recap would be aside from the suite here that we're talking about. So definitely any questions on that, please send them through. Next is Navisworks Simulate. Many of you are familiar with maybe working with other 3D models from other applications. Well, Navisworks would be a great tool to bring those models together, do a quick simulation as it is in the name, help you kind of enhance some other features. On the civil side, Brian, what do you think maybe a good example of someone might have various road projects or very other applications model where someone might use this, other than ownerships and things? I could see how an owner, but maybe throughout the workflow.
I've seen it. Navisworks honestly is used primarily by contractors in the civil industry. I've seen heavy civil contractors create Navisworks models that actually shows the timelining of the project being built. So phase 1, we're going to demo this area. Phase 2, we're going to build up this area, and then we're going to go demo that area. And you can timeline this and actually simulate the whole process going through.
Next is AutoCAD Civil 3D, which was mentioned earlier. If for those folks that just had Civil 3D as a standalone product and now are looking for the suite or may have access to the suite, this rides on top of the Map 3D we mentioned earlier, as well as the AutoCAD. So this will help support your BIM workflows, civil engineers, analysis tools, as Brian indicated earlier, some other functionality. Anything else folks might want to know?
Oh, I have no idea. I've never heard of Civil 3D before. No, of course. Yeah, that's kind of my thing. All right. One thing that people seem to confuse Civil 3D for is they think of it as a civil design drafting tool. It's not. It really is a tool to help engineers do design. The drafting is simply a byproduct of the model. So if I change the alignment, the contours change because they're simply a byproduct of the model that I'm editing. And that's really where you see the power of Civil 3D, is in this automated system. You click in there.
Next we have AutoCAD Utility Design. Many folks may not deal with utility if you're government or if you, obviously your business is involved around utility. This is a great add-on now for, again, utility design based on AutoCAD. What is your experiences, Brian, out in the field of folks using this as a good electrical distribution type application or other uses that this may be very important for?
Yeah, so when it comes to utility design, one thing to don't get confused with, it's intended for the dry utilities, so electric, telephone, those types of things. Power distribution. It's not intended for the wet utilities like water and storm and sanitary and those types of things. But it comes with rules, and if you connect a power line to this box has to meet these specific requirements, and you can set up all those rules to analyze it and document it, and that's really where the power of utility design comes into play.
All right, next we have 3ds Max. Anyone building any higher end rendering, this would be the tool for you. Any animations from the civil data, this is definitely a tool that has been utilized for a while, and I think a lot more firms and agencies and whatnot are really starting to get into this more. Brian, anything you might want to add on that?
Yeah, so when it comes to 3ds Max, we always think visualizations. We can do visualizations in AutoCAD. So, for example, we have the drive tool in Civil 3D. So we can drive down a road and visualize what's happening there. It does okay. 3ds Max is more of a, people that use 3ds Max can actually create full-blown movies. A great way of explaining the difference is in Civil 3D, I can show you what it would look like to drive down the road. In 3ds Max, I can show you what it looks like to have all of the cars driving down the road and crashing into each other and catching on fire, and guys come running out and doing all sorts of fun things like that. So whereas a lot of the other tools are visualization tools, 3ds Max is an animation tool. It will actually animate the vehicles driving down the roads for you.
We get Revit Structure. There's 3 versions of Revit. This particular version is structure related for anyone doing structural design or possibly bridges, you know, these typical type of projects. What are other ways you've seen, Brian, Revit Structure used out in the field?
There's a great connection with Revit Structure and Civil 3D through the bridge analysis, through the bridge modeling tool rather. So there's using the bridge tools, you can bring a Civil 3D model into Revit Structure and actually design a bridge. We can do that in Civil 3D sort of, but we don't have the same structural capabilities that Revit Structure has. We can't call this out as being a support structure or not. In Civil 3D, it's just a solid. So Revit Structure allows you to model it in such a way that it can then be put into an analysis piece of software to analyze the loads, find out what the moments are, the deflections, and those types of things.
Next we have Revit, which, as I mentioned before, in this usage here, Revit would include all versions of the Revit. So you generally got the Revit architecture, the structural, and the MEP side. Anything else you want to add to this version, Brian, to kind of make more sense of the difference?
Yeah, so Revit Structure is geared towards structures, right? We want to make sure that, you know, we have a column in here, and this column is a load-bearing column. Whereas Revit, just kind of in the general sense of Revit, as architects would use it, they want to put a column there and they want it to look good. And they're going to put these facades on it. And when would they create a wall that has these different materials within the wall, whereas Revit Structure would look at this as, it's a wall, is it a bearing wall or is it not a bearing wall? And what's the weight of it, so we can do analyses on it like that. And then it also has the MEP components to it, where you can do you know, the heating and air conditioning and ventilations and things like that. So if you have people in your office that do those sorts of things, and you have the suite on a network license, then you can grab a license for that specific functionality then.
And then Navisworks Manage. So it's similar to the Simulate version that we had mentioned, but there is a little bit more capability, such as class detection, which is widely used for folks, you know, determining issues before anything's even built. Any good examples, Brian, you could provide on Navisworks Manage versus the Simulate?
Sure. So, you know, Navisworks Manage does clash detection. That's really the big deal with the Navisworks Manage. A good example would be, you know, we're designing a road, and this road has an overpass that goes over the top of it. Well, my pier has some supporting foundations, but I also have utilities that are in this area. So are these pylons for my piers going to be interfering with or clashing with the existing utilities that I have in the ground? And if they are, where are they and what software is it coming from? Nice thing about Navisworks is it can grab data from all sorts of different software. It is very much so, it doesn't care what the file type is. If it's a modeling software, it can pretty much read the file type and then bring that in and run those detections on, clashes on it.
And then Robot Structural Analysis, and this is the professional version. Brian, this may be a good one for you too, because I know this is a recently added item. What would be a good reason why someone would utilize this structural analysis tool?
So Revit Structure doesn't do analysis. Revit Structure does the modeling. So Revit Structure will go in and model a wall as a load-bearing wall. Robot Structural Analysis will then figure out, okay, what are the loads on this wall? What are the loads on the weld that takes the beam into the column? That's what the structural analysis piece does. Revit Structure says this beam is connecting to this column. Robot Structural Analysis says, okay, what are the loads that this particular junction is then going to see? And is it good or is it bad? And how much is it going to deflect? And stress and strains and moments and all sorts of fun things like that.
Obviously make a change at that time if need be. All right. So as I mentioned earlier, there are 3 versions of the Infrastructure Design Suite. The first version, the most basic version, is Infrastructure Design Suite Standard. The items, applications that are included here are the AutoCAD, the Map 3D we mentioned, Storm and Sanitary Analysis, the Raster Design, Recap, and the Navisworks Simulate, not the Manage that we just had reference to. The next version is Premium. This is one of the most popular versions, kind of middle of the road version.
What percentage do you think of our clients that get the design suite get Premium?
From what I've seen, I would say up to 90% of all the suites out there are mostly the Premium version.
Yeah.
And as we'll go into the next, there are many firms out there that will have lots of the Premium version, and then some of the Ultimate versions for some of the tools that we'll go over here in just a minute. So as you see, everything here in the Premium is everything that was in the Standard, except for you get the Civil 3D application added, Utility Design, the 3ds Max, and the Revit Structure. So again, this is the Infrastructure Design Suite Premium version. And next, what they call, as I mentioned, the Ultimate. So Infrastructure Design Suite Ultimate, everything in the Standard and the Premium had, except for the Navisworks Simulate is replaced with Navisworks Manage. You also get the structural analysis, the robot structural analysis tool, and then all Revits as well. So you'll have some architecture, the Revit architecture information in there, and the MEP, or for some of you not know what that is, the mechanical, electrical, plumbing version is Revit as well. So you can see there's a great difference between each 3 versions, and you can see why some folks have the Premium, and then why the Ultimate might be a big option for folks that are doing a lot of structural analysis, or they need to do a lot more preliminary viewing for clashes and other things like that in the Navisworks Manage. Anything, Brian, you to add on the difference in these 3 versions?
Just want to talk real quick about what's not listed here. So if we had done this presentation a year ago, we would also see on this particular list the river and flood analysis. Right? That is no longer a part of the Ultimate Suite. That is now a part of Civil 3D. So if you have Civil 3D, and you don't even need a suite, you get access to the river and flood analysis. And I do believe it's a subscription benefit. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's the way that works. So if you have Civil 3D on subscription, then you get access to the river and flood analysis. This was a part of, back in the day, the only way to get that was through the Ultimate Suite. The other thing that, I don't know if you guys noticed or not, that's not listed here is InfraWorks. So InfraWorks 360 is kind of a standalone product. It is not a part of the suites. However, if you have the suites on, and I believe it's any level, it might just be Premium and Ultimate, I could be wrong on this, you get access to InfraWorks 360 LT. Just kind of like AutoCAD and then AutoCAD LT, so LT stands for Limited Technologies. So you get a base version of InfraWorks 360, the InfraWorks 360 LT, that you can use and view and do. There's a lot you can do with it. It's just not as much as you can do with the full version of InfraWorks 360. So that's another thing that's not listed here.
So as you've seen, we've went over all 3 versions. Some versions have general GIS tools with your basic AutoCAD and a few other items in there that could be helpful moving forward. A Premium version, more into anything civil related. And then you can go into the Ultimate version, which gives you more clash detection, bring in several more models together to create one model. You get more the structural analysis type tools in the Ultimate version, so if that's part of your workflow, that may be a great consideration. And then also, with that said, keep in mind with some of these tools that are not included in here. If you need some of these river analysis tools, or you're looking at the getting into the InfraWorks, which most folks are really starting to utilize that more now, getting into additional more usage with the InfraWorks tool, consider that is an option to a lot of these three suites that we had talked about today. So with that said, this is a good time to open up the floor, answer any additional questions folks may have. Feel free to type them in here. If you have a mic and you feel bold enough to talk, we can open that up, or we'll answer your questions here live as we type them, as you type them through, or we'll answer them privately as well. So with that said, I want to say, thank you for joining us today, and we appreciate any questions or comments you have. Feel free to reach out to us. Our contact information is at the bottom. Send us an email. I personally get all those emails, so I will sift through them and answer your questions there. Keep a lookout for this, as well as all of our recorded webinars on our YouTube channel at CAD One Webinars at YouTube. And thank you very much for joining us today.
All right, it doesn't look like anybody has any questions, so now is your chance, if you have any questions on the suites, to ask them in. Doesn't look like we have anything pop up, so.
So again, as a reminder, a good way to follow us and good way to reach out to us is to definitely go on our Facebook page. Lots of posts and lots of great way. It's a great way to access a lot of new information that's coming out, or events, as well as our Twitter page. And Brian Haley himself, he's got his 3ds Plus blog. You can follow him on Twitter as well. And LinkedIn, you can find us on LinkedIn. Many of us have our own LinkedIn page, which you can access from our CAD One LinkedIn page as well. So again, any questions, feel free to reach out to us. But if not, we thank you for attending, and we look forward to working with you here in the near future.
All right, guys, thank you very much.